Okay, so I guess the most important question now is how fundamental will the impact be of this RCEP deal to the ASEAN bloc, including the Philippines? Because some trade experts say this will just, in effect, standardize already existing bilateral trade deals. So it's China, South Korea, Australia, for example, benefiting more because instead of them dealing individually with ASEAN countries, they will follow, one single trade agreement.
No, basically, even for those in ASEAN, because as you know, within ASEAN, we already have the ASEAN as an FTA, and ASEAN has individual FTAs with ASEAN China, ASEAN Japan, ASEAN Korea, etc. So what basically RCEP does is that it incrementally increases the level of trade ties or the level of market access within ASEAN and its partners. And so may incremental increase as far as ASEAN and the other countries are concerned. But of course, the big change would be for those FTA countries among themselves, which did not have any FTA among themselves. So of course, that's the big increase among them. But
So,
incrementally for us in ASEAN, that there would still be that improvement in market access. And the RCEP basically covers now a lot more areas, not only in trade in goods, now it has trade in services, investments, discussions on intellectual property, protection, as well as micro SME, e-commerce, and a lot of other things included in the FTA. So we say this is, I guess, more modern, more comprehensive kind of FTA, and it's the biggest in the world right now.
Secretary, so concretely, will this mean lower imported goods for Filipino consumers when we are trading with the other RCEP members?
Oh, yes, of course. And it also broadens the sourcing of raw materials. For example, if we are exporting certain products to Japan, for example, and then as you're familiar with the rules of origin, it has to be sourced from Philippines. No, if we are exporting, let's say, to Japan, now with RCEP, we can be allowed to import our sources, our raw materials, for example, from an RCEP country, and still be able to export to Japan, and that will be included as a as an exportable item with good rules of origin. So things like those, it increases the supply chain within the RCEP countries.
Secretary, which local industry do you expect will benefit the most from this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Which local industry do you expect to benefit the most from the deal?
So there are new items that are now included in RCEP. In other words, better market access for some of the products, in particular automotive parts, if I can name a few, automotive, garments, electronics, as well as even for services. For example, legal, accounting, engineering can now practice in other countries, like if one can practice in China or in Korea, wherever these services are also made open. And also to allay the fears of some of the sectors here. For example, the RCEP still has the flexibility wherein there are still exclusion or products in the exclusion list, yung mga sensitive agriculture products natin. They're not necessarily part of RCEP. Based on negotiation, meron tayo usually mga sensitive list products. So these are kept. And just like in other countries, they have also their sensitive list. So it basically respects all these sensitive products.
Secretary, will this make us, the ASEAN bloc, whether we like it or not, a little bit more pro-China? Because this essentially cements China's domination in its backyard. And I mean, what happens to the role of the U.S.? The U.S. is not part of RCEP. Under Trump, they walked away from the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. But now they have a new leader, a Biden White House. Do you think a Biden White House will mean the U.S. walks back to negotiating table for new or these trade partnerships?
I can't speak for them, but maybe based on their pronouncements, they might be more open this time to regional trade ties, just like what they had in CPTPP, no? Well, of course, for now, this RCEP actually is ASEAN-led. It just so happened that China and India was supposed to be there, but India withdrew last year. So the biggest economy, or I guess the country with the biggest population now is China, 1.3 billion. But big economies like Japan and Korea are also here, part of this, Australia and New Zealand as well. So it's definitely a big trade bloc that we cannot afford to be absent in this trade bloc.
Secretary, on another note, I know that you're going to be in Typhoon hit Marikina today to do some inspection. We know that a price freeze is in place for areas under a state of calamity because they've been affected by the recent storms. Marikina, Camarines provinces, Cavite, Mindoro, Palawan, Catanduanes, Batangas, among them. What's the situation on the ground right now, sir?
So a lot of micro SMEs were affected as far as, let's say, that's what BPI is looking at. So we have prepared a fund that the micro to be able to help the micro SMEs that affected. Of course, on the pricing first. Now we have to make sure that the price there's a price freeze in all these areas with the state of calamity. So there will be continued monitoring. We've been doing that for the past 3 weeks, I guess, ever since yung first typhoon hit, no, for those affected, MSMEs affected, we prepared a list of support, basically livelihood support fund for the micro businesses, and then the small business corporation, yung loans natin, CARES, can be extended to them as a relief for their damaged businesses, no, for the small and medium type of businesses.
Secretary, how big is the MSME fund that you're preparing for these affected areas?
For the loan part, it's about 100 million. For the livelihood support funds, that's about 10 million.
Okay.
Basically, we're getting from whatever we still have in the budget right now.